to the Worship Leader Blog Podcast, empowering, instructing, and encouraging both on and off the stage.
Hey guys, it's Terry with the worshipleaderblog.com, and today we'll be talking about the introverted worship leader. You know, introvert and worship leader, sometimes they seem like polar opposites because on one hand you have worship leader and there's some of the things and some of the roles that you have to play and some of the things you have to do as a worship leader, they're very outward. A lot of the stuff that a worship leader does in their description, they're all very outward. And when you think about people that are introverted and keep things in, they seem like very opposite things that can exist together. But these two things, they can coexist and they can have a harmony, and you can be an effective worship leader and an introvert. There are a few things you have to work on, but they can work together and they can have a marriage, so to speak. So in a study by Psychology Today, they say about anywhere from 14 to 50% of people are introverts. Now, this is a really broad, really wide range number. It's kind of hard to narrow it down to how many people are introverts and how many are not. But I took that statistic and let's just say 20%, a good medium, that 1 out of 5 people you meet are introverts. I think that sounds like a pretty safe ballpark number. These aren't dead on numbers, but it'll kind of give you a ballpark of the amount of introverts. I myself, I am an introvert. I'm an introverted person. And when I think about my introversion, if that's a word, when I think about how introverted I am and having to lead worship and some of the things that I had to struggle with early on as a direct result of being an introvert, some of the things in my worship leading suffered because of that. I've learned to make up for me being an introvert. I've learned that on the outside, when I'm not leading worship, I'm still very introverted. I'm still very off to myself. But things have been so repetitive with me, with being in front of a lot of people. I've kind of developed I guess, one thing that's remarkable about us as humans, we can learn and we can adapt to almost anything, especially when it comes to mental things and things of that nature and things of personality. So I've learned to be outward. I've learned to do some of the things that used to terrify me just out of doing them a lot of times and confronting them. So I am better as a worship leader. I'm still an introvert, and there still are some introverted tendencies I have, but overall I've gotten a lot better. Now, as introverted worship leaders, there are a few things that present challenges to us, and I'll talk about just a few of the things that have been challenges to me, and that people that I notice that are worship leaders that are introverts that have been challenges to them. Now, as introverts, we are more self-aware and self-conscious of our shortcomings. Now, I don't mean we're more self-aware as people, but when our shortcomings with that in the spotlight, we are more self-aware of those things. We tend to put a spotlight on our shortcomings as introverts. That's one of the things that can be a downfall, and that can really discourage you, because a lot of times you look at the places you lack and the areas where you lack, and you focus in on those, and your strengths, they kind of take a back seat. Another thing about us worship leaders that are introverts, we love our comfort zone. We not only love it, we thrive in it. If I'm in my comfort zone, I can roam to and fro. I can move very freely within my comfort zone. Now, as introverts, we are very restricted by our comfort zones, and some introverts have bigger comfort zones than others, and that's something we can work on. But as introverts, we tend to be constricted by our comfort zones, and we thrive in it. We learn to thrive in it, and we get really comfortable in it, and we detest moving out of our comfort zone. It strikes us with fear and trembling to move out of our comfort zone. So that's one of the things as an introverted worship leader, loving our comfort zone. We love our comfort zone. Not only as worship leaders, but as introverts in general, we tend to internalize our thoughts and our feelings. Our thoughts, we keep them to ourselves, and our feelings, we keep them to ourselves. And a lot of times, me personally, I like to think and analyze stuff. So I like to let them cook, let things bake in my head for a while, think on them. And most introverts, even if we're not analyzing things, we're we keep them in just out of not wanting to make a spectacle of our feelings or make a spectacle of our thoughts. We tend to internalize them to keep the spotlight off of us because we don't want our views being like looked at as crazy or different or wow, this guy is just about drawing attention to yourself. And as an introvert, we do not like attention. We like to hide in a corner somewhere. So we internalize our thoughts and our feelings to kind of hide in that corner because we don't want to shed a light on our thoughts and it be something that's different and that draws attention to us because of it being different. Now, this internalizing our thoughts and our feelings, it makes it difficult for us to be expressive in worship. If you're internalizing your thoughts and your feelings and you have to go out on a platform and you have to talk to people and you have to encourage people and you have to be very outward in your movements and very outward vocally, and having a mindset that's opposite of that, internalizing things, that can make it a real struggle. It can make it a really big struggle. So these are just a few of the things that I've dealt with, I've had to battle through, and I'm still battling through as a worship leader. And I've noticed some of my friends that are worship leaders, they have to fight and they have to battle through these challenges. They're challenges, but is there anything we can do about this? Well, of course, there are some things we can do about these areas to improve them. And I've worked on some of these areas and I'm still working on some, and I've watched people grow as worship leaders and work on some of these areas ourselves. Now, one of the things about being an introvert, whether we like to admit it or not, is a mindset thing. A lot of our introversion, like I said, if that's a word, a lot of that is our mindset. A lot of the things, if we just think differently, we can overcome those. The thinking override the physical shakiness and fear and all that. Once we get it in our heads, then a lot of those physical symptoms that occur because of our thoughts, we can get those to go away or to decrease. And with saying that, a lot of the times we see ourselves as introverts and we know what tendencies introverts have. So therefore we begin to rationalize and we say, okay, it's okay because I'm an introvert. It's okay. I'm supposed to be this way. I'm an introvert. I mean, all introverts are like this. So me being like this and me having these reserves and having these fears and having these feelings, it's okay because I am an introvert. Well, the truth of the matter is, as introverts, we have the same doubts and the same fears as everyone else. Just because someone is an extroverted person doesn't mean that they don't have self-doubt, and it doesn't mean that they don't have fear. But they meet the challenge and they think about it in a very different way than a lot of us introverts do. So if we can kind of turn our thinking on our habits as introverts and our feelings as introverts, and know that even the extrovert, they have those same doubts and feelings, but they're willing to do something about it. They're willing to do something about it, and they're willing to take a step forward. And you might say, okay, all right, I get you, but once you're out there on the stage, it's different. You can just say, do it, attack it. But when you're in the limelight and everyone's looking and people are watching, it's different. And you're right, it is very different. But one of the things we can do to take action and not just talk about it is find your strengths. Even if you have to write it down, find your strengths and focus on those. And those are the things you begin to step out on first. If you're really strong well, I'll put it like this. I've been told that I have an infectious smile, and smiling is one of the things that I do well when leading worship. People say they're encouraged by it. So that is one of the things I will push the envelope and step out a little bit on. I'm not gonna step out on the things that are my weaknesses. I'm gonna begin to step out on the things that I'm good at. So identify your strengths. Even if you have to write them down, identify those and then begin to step out on those first. Those are where you step out of your comfort zone on that, because it is a strength and you can handle it. You have the ability to stretch yourself and to step out on that. So don't go and step out on something that's a weakness because you want to hit it head first and, I'm going to grab the bull by the horns and that kind of thing. No, find your strengths, identify them, and step out on those. And even if you have to plan these things, if you have to plan your first step in the beginning stages, if you have to say, okay, during this song, during this course, I'm going to do this, and this is my step out. If you have to do that at the beginning, that is absolutely fine. It's not the stepping out at the beginning. It's the main thing at the beginning is getting your mind and your body used to stepping out of the comfort zone. So at the beginning, when you're stepping out on these things, it's just getting your mind and your body adjusted to being out of the comfort zone. So if you have to plan that stuff out, if you have to know ahead of time when you're going to do it and what you're going to do, that's totally fine. You're not a square. You're not faking it. You're getting your mind and your body, you're kind of walking it out of its comfort zone a little bit. And as introverts, we have to do that. Sometimes it's shocking. It's like shock therapy to dive out in the water, in the ice cold water all at once. Sometimes you have to inch it along. And the thing is getting there. It's not how you get there that counts. It's that you get there. So some people will have to plan it out and they'll have to know ahead of time what they're doing to step out of that comfort zone. And one of the things we can do to combat us internalizing things, our thoughts and our feelings, is being outward with our expressions of worship, with our expressions of our thoughts, and how we feel about God and our prayers about God. Now, this is one of the things that you're just going to have to be uncomfortable with. Start with the small phrases about yourself, how you feel about it. And it kind of combats our internal thinking and our internal feeling if we can get our thoughts about God and our prayers to God and the way we feel. If we can get that verbal small glimpses of it here and there in our worship, then that begins to reverse the cycle of, okay, I'm internalizing my thoughts, I'm internalizing my feelings, I'm getting it out there, and now I'm starting to see a shift and a change. And it may be a small shift and a small change, but that is one of the things that is key in getting that internal mindset and that internal, I'm going to keep everything in. And when you begin to do this subtle way of opening up to others, it's combating and it's crippling to the effects of being an introvert. So you're being an introvert and the effects of that, those symptoms of being an introvert, this is the antidote to that. Getting out there, saying verbally how you feel about God and being expressive by, maybe if you were going to lift your hands once, maybe lift them and wave them, just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone with your outwardness and your thinking and your feelings. And then that's when we can begin to be ourselves while we lead worship and we're leading others to God. Being authentic is one of the greatest tools that we can have in connecting to people. Because in order to create an atmosphere that's compelling for people to worship God and that's easy for people to worship God, we have to connect to them, and we have to connect to God, and we have to connect to them. And that creates that segue that's easy for them to worship God and it's compelling, but we have to first connect to them. And being authentic and showing your feelings and telling how you feel about God and your own personal prayers about God, it just creates this openness and it creates this transparency that allows you to be authentic and allows others to connect with you. Hopefully I haven't rambled on too long about the introvert and how to get out of the introversion. I keep using that word. I'll have to look it up to see if it's really a word. And all of this, it allows us to be effective. It allows us to be effective worship leaders. At theworshipleaderblog.com, I have, it's a small ebook, 2 steps to more effective worship leading. It talks about outward worship. It talks about internal things. It talks about connecting to God. It talks about connecting to people. You can head on over to theworshipleaderblog.com, and that is a free download just for you guys listening. I think it's got some helpful information in there, just kind of the things that I've done in my worship leading and in my life to facilitate more effective worship leading. Well, all right, guys, it's been good. That's it for this week. Tune in next week and we'll be coming with another subject. If you have any ideas, anything you want me to talk about, anything you want to discuss, head over to Facebook at The Worship Leader Blog or YouTube at The Worship Leader Blog, Twitter at TWL Blog. Just put any of the ideas you have, any things you want to discuss, you want me to talk about, or you want to say, just head on over and leave those comments. Well, all right, guys, it's been good. And until next time, signing off.